All right, we're recording. Hey, Jay.
Jeff, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Lots going on.
Yeah,
Lots going on this week.
it's been an interesting week. Yeah, obviously, we talk an awful lot about the Bears here, just because that's our team, and we've had some highs, some lows, and everything in between.
Well, as you know, as I believe the Fresh Prince once said, their lives got flipped turned upside down this week. We all know it. We knew it was coming. We just didn't really know when. And for the first time in their 100+ year history, they have fired a coach mid-season. I didn't think they'd have the stones to do it, but they did. And
Yeah,
I think we're all better for it.
yeah. Apparently, the players are quite happy about that. I've read notes and articles about Jalen Johnson going off on Eberflus at the end of the
Oh,
Lions
yeah.
game, as well he should have, because my God, what happened?
Well, yeah. I mean, let's talk. Let's talk about Eberflus's fall from grace, because I know obviously we got to talk about Caleb and how he continues to play well despite what's going on with the coaching situation. But yeah, Jalen Johnson, I guess, was reported that he went just absolutely bananas for 10 to 15 minutes in the locker room, and it got so bad that they had to remove Eberflus from the locker room to basically get Jalen Johnson and others to even calm down. It was that bad. I mean, other quotes I heard, Keenan Allen told reporters that, hey, yeah, the players,
Yep,
we did enough to win.
I saw that.
DJ Moore.
That's a nice subtle dig right there.
Yeah, DJ Moore basically said we shit the bed, and that is a direct quote. And an unnamed player, here's your damning evidence right here. An unnamed player was quoted as saying, "We felt as players, it's been many instances where we fought our way back into games to lose because of bad time management and decision making." And if that doesn't say what's going on in their locker room, where they supposedly had this great culture, their culture obviously is in the garbage. And Caleb Williams basically said, hey, whatever the situation, that's got to be coach's call. He knew a timeout needed to happen. He knew it, but he said, I can't call that. My job is to run the play that's called and make plays and win games for the Bears. And that's another shot at Eberflus in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Is that decision of Caleb not calling a timeout, and that's a rookie decision, right? If that was Aaron Rodgers, he would have called that timeout, or any other experienced quarterback would have just taken control and said, basically, fuck you, Flus. I'm going to do what's right.
I think Caleb maybe 5 years from now makes that call. I don't think a rookie would make that call. Caleb knew it, but I don't know where he stands as far as the pecking order of the Bears goes, that he can make that call without taking a lot of crap. I mean, Eberflus had the gall after the game to say, I like what we did there.
Yeah.
What was there to like? You sat on your ass for 35 seconds and did nothing.
Yeah, he got ripped by literally everyone. I mean, all the the post-game analysis, all the talking heads on TV just went after him. And my gosh, I mean, 30 seconds, a game that they had no business really being in. I thought Detroit played terribly, to be honest with you. I mean, they had so many red zone chances, and the defense kept them in it, as typically they do, but no chance that they should not have been in that game at all.
No,
here you go.
I mean,
you can steal one in Detroit, really do something for the franchise, and to have it just 30 seconds of ineptitude kind of sums up the entire season. Again, creative new ways to lose games. And it's not just on Flus, although he is a big one, but the penalties that took away huge plays. I mean, you got Cole Kmet getting called for offensive pass interference again on a play. You've got illegal hands to the face by the offensive line on a play that Keenan Allen made to get him even closer. I mean,
yeah, that Jenkins penalty just killed him, just absolutely killed him.
Lots of shit play all around, but really just capped off by Flus's terrible time management.
Yeah, it's as if he had lost total control of the team. And to be honest with you, he's done that so quickly in my mind. I know we're in week 12 or week 13, whatever, but you remember back when they filmed Hard Knocks and everybody was happy, everybody was great. You know, they were all excited. Caleb coming to town, Keenan Allen. We have all the tools to make the playoffs and all that stuff. And holy crap, if they done a complete 180 on
So
the
maybe
season.
Hard Knocks wasn't real. Maybe the TV show was not what we thought it was.
Well, I don't think it was real at all. I went into that so hyped, thinking, you know what, we're gonna see about some behind the scenes stuff. It's gonna be just as good as Last Dance for the Bulls, and I thought it was so almost scripted, but it was so just fluffy. And I mean, they weren't allowed to swear because George McCaskey said that doesn't represent what the Bears are about. George, you ever go to football practice on any football team,
right,
whether it's high school, pee-wee? Guess what, George? They cuss, they swear, they say shit, ass, all that stuff. You know, it's football. It's not church. And you just knew that something just wasn't right with the team. And ever since the Hail Mary, it's all gone to hell. I mean, Hail Mary, 2 block field goals, just they have 20 false starts on the season. That's second in the league.
Poorly coached all around.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at their schedule for the year. They've been blown out twice by the Cardinals and by the Patriots of all people, right? By 20 points and by 16 points by those two teams. Every other game has been a 1-score game that they've lost. Does a competent coach pull out at least some of those and make them better than what their record indicates they are today?
Well, yes. I mean, I recall last year they also had 3 games where they should have won that they lost. I can't remember who the opponents were, but
well, let's take this. So Commanders, right? That's the one, the Hail Mary game. You call a timeout there, and you get your team focused. You get your defensive backs to actually stare towards where the play is happening instead of talking to the crowd.
Yes,
right, stuff like that. I think that's one that they definitely could have turned around because the odds of that happening are so low. So that's one. I think the Lions, they definitely had a shot. Whether they would have survived in overtime is debatable, but didn't even give them a chance to get there. And the same thing for the Vikings, and the same thing for the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, they're 4-8. They could easily be 8-4 right now and still, fighting for the division. They'd be in the driver's seat for a wild card spot. I mean,
they'd be a really shaky 8-4.
Yeah,
but they would be 8-4.
But they'd be 8-4. I mean, it was Arizona that they were supposed to beat. They were supposed to beat New England, and just those were supposed to be the 2 games that set them up for, okay, if we get to this point heading into the division schedule, we might have a shot. They totally crapped the bed in those games, right? Yet they actually show up to play Green Bay, game they should have won, blocked field goal. Okay, is that coaching, scheme, whatever? I don't know. Fluke, it happened. Then they lose to Minnesota. Then they lose to Detroit. Again, 1-score games. Just complete crap. I mean, the move had to be made. And what a 3-week whirlwind it's been for Thomas Brown as he takes over for head coach.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're seeing a big difference in the way Caleb has been attacking and playing offense instead of just reacting, which is great. Another good game by Caleb this week. I think it's again encouraging. This season is lost, but it's encouraging to see the development of Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, as we said last week, I mean, the season is all about Caleb Williams, right? I mean, his last 3 games, he's 75 for 117, 827 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He has only thrown, I think, 1 interception over his last, 10 games or something like that. It's, adds 19 rushes for 142 yards. He's now the Bears record holder for both yards and TDs by a rookie. And he is the NFL record holder for most passes without an interception by a rookie, currently standing at 212. And that is a live streak that's going right now. So making good decisions. I know he still takes a couple of sacks that he shouldn't take. I think he's up to 45 sacks on the 45. Year.
Got the most in the league right now.
And, some of those are on him. I'm not going to say all of them are, but some of them are. So he still has room to move, but if anybody is still saying this guy isn't our guy, still wanting Justin Fields back, I'm sorry, you're an idiot. And you don't know what you're watching. This guy is special. He is going to be the best quarterback in Bears history down the road. I firmly
kind of
believe
almost is
that
already. It's a very low bar to clear, but
well, who's he up against? Cutler,
Eric Kramer,
maybe, I don't know, Jim McMahon, Bobby Douglas. I don't even know. It is a very low bar, but the fact that we can even say that after 12 games and they have a 4-8 record, it's good for him, but it is an indictment on the organization that's been absolute shit for God knows how long.
Yeah. Well, we've got a coaching change. It's the thing that we all wanted. So now what happens, right? We see Thomas Brown take over as, I guess, is he still offensive coordinator at the same time as head coach? Is he go off and hire another offensive coordinator or someone else to fill in the spots?
I think he has to be. I think they kind of do a de facto, he's the head coach, but he runs the offense. Eric Washington now runs the defense, and they just kind of roll with it. I mean, Thomas Brown gets a 5-game audition because I'm sure he'll be in consideration for next year. What's nice is finally they're not going to hire some outside consultant like an Ernie Accorsi or the other guy that they had whose name escapes me right now to help them find a head coach. Oh, Bill Polian. But apparently Kevin Warren is the one who's going to head up the search with the assistance of Ryan Poles. Kevin Warren, the guy who was brought here to help them get a new stadium and is 2+ years in, and they haven't even broken ground. They can't even decide where to build it.
They got a financing deal though, at least. So they
did get a financing deal.
I mean, this is just politics, right? At this point, it's posturing, maneuvering.
Yeah.
Do you really see them leaving Soldier Field in downtown Chicago?
They have a really nice piece of property out in Arlington Heights that they paid almost $200 million for, that they own.
But it's real estate, and that's even if they bought it for $200 million, they can turn around and sell it for $300 million.
They could.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a solid investment regardless of what they do with it. But they could have had shovels in the ground a long time ago, and obviously there was some politics with that, some tax money, with the schools and the Arlington Heights School District and all that stuff. But I don't know. Can you trust Kevin Warren to get this right?
I don't know anything about the guy. He seems to be like a behind the scenes person and really doesn't make headlines.
Exactly. How much actual football does the guy know? I know he, used to work for the Vikings. What did he do there? He built them a new stadium. He used to be head of the Big Ten. Was he ever GM of a football team? No. Does he have any actual football background? I don't think so. So
but I think that's not necessarily bad though, because I think you need somebody to run the business of football.
Oh, well,
and
yeah.
If he's not involved with, I don't see him vetting candidates. He might be part of the interview process, from a personality standpoint, but I don't see him even being the person making the decision.
I think he'll be in on the decision. I mean, between him and George McCaskey, they'll have a big influence on the decision. I mean, Ryan Poles obviously gets to hire his second coach. I think you have to let him. I mean, I think he survives this, and I think he should. But after this, if this doesn't work out, obviously, then you got Poles in the hot seat, and once again, we're starting all over. So this is a huge turning point for the Bears franchise.
So who do we get?
They
got
have
to break the bank, right? They got to go out and spend money to get a coach.
Well, yeah, they do. I mean, there's a ton of names out there. I think this Bears job will be the number one coveted job, no matter who else gets fired at the end of the season. Simply because, for two reasons. One is Chicago. It's the charter franchise in the NFL. And if you become the coach to turn this franchise around and bring a Super Bowl to Chicago, you're like Chicago's guest for the rest of your life, right? I mean, look how this city still views Mike Ditka. That guy could do no wrong. And what? They won the Super Bowl 40 years ago, and that's what we have to hang our hat on.
But he also had a personality that matched, I think, what Chicago was looking for. Right? Blue collar, didn't take shit from anybody. Still doesn't take shit from anybody.
He did.
Stuff like
I mean, and he was also, a Hall of Fame player here as well. So, there's that. But, I think the other thing is you have the chance to coach Caleb Williams. And I think that's a big deal.
What are the odds that Thomas Brown removes the interim from his head coach title and they make it official.
Well, these last 5 games, I think will have some bearing on that. Is it a slam dunk? I don't think it should be. Does Thomas Brown stay if they hire somebody else? Would he want to stay if they hire somebody else? I mean,
that'd be an awkward situation, right? Is if you get passed over for the head coaching, do you stay with that organization?
I think it depends. I think it depends if they get a defensive minded head coach like a Mike Vrabel, who I would be very happy with. Or, like and these are just names, but there's Vance Joseph, who's the DC out in Denver right now. There's Brian Flores, who's the DC in Minnesota. You bring back Belichick. He's a defensive coach. Granted, he's going to be 73 years old next year. Pete Carroll is also defensive coach, but he's also retired for now. I have no idea if has interest to come back to football. I think he's in his 70s too. But if you hire an offensive coach, I don't see how Thomas Brown comes back, which now puts Caleb with his 3rd offensive coordinator in 2 years.
Mm-hmm. And that starts the downward spiral where
there's
no consistency. Yeah. Now it ends up being yet another Justin Fields, Mitchell Trubisky, right? Where you're not able really to establish that solid footing and that consistency. And that leads to bad things. Yeah. I mean, as much as I like Caleb, advanced stats, he has the most poor passes in the league by a lot.
He does.
81, according to, I'm looking at Fantasy Pros and their poor pass rating. He's got 81. Second place is DJ Stroud with 68.
As we know, he does overshoot receivers.
He does. Lot. And I would love to see him connect on a deep ball every once in a while. He's got no 50-yard plus passes.
Yeah, he's we're starting to see the 15-yard passes turn into 20-yard passes here and there. So it's like he's starting to stretch the field a little bit, but you're right. He can't seem to hit on the home run, right? When he's got
his accuracy is low too. He's only hitting 63% of his passes. I mean, that's
right.
There is certainly a lot of room for improvement. I think he tries to do too much, and maybe that's part of it is because of his, the sieve that his offensive line has been. It seems like he's constantly under attack and having to make plays with his legs. And he is brilliant when you get him outside the pocket. I mean, some of the passes he threw against Detroit where, he's rolling out and he's making the play happen. I mean, incredible.
Oh yeah, I mean he hit Allen on a 3rd down right between 2 Detroit defenders. I mean, you see flashes of honestly brilliance from him. But then again, you see, he'll overshoot somebody or he'll throw behind somebody. Just not connecting 100% of the time, which I'm convinced that will come with more throws and more reps and all that stuff. And you got to be thankful that he doesn't turn the ball over. He is starting to take more chances, like I said, but there is room to grow. I hope they get the right guy to help him grow. Do they bring in a Kingsbury? Do they try and get Ben Johnson from Detroit? I mean, if Detroit wins it all this year, which is quite possible, does Ben Johnson want to leave for a head coach gig? My guess is yes.
For the Bears? For the probably one of the top head coach spots in the league.
I think that would, I think
so. I mean, the only reason you would turn that down is if something happens from a management perspective.
Right. Or do you go get a Brian Flores, who's a defensive genius, supposedly, and, let's Thomas Brown keep running your offense if he's willing to stay.
I don't think Ben Johnson sounds intriguing, and he's going to be the golden boy because of the success the Lions have had over the last couple of years. But it's also a very different team. They have a lot of different weapons, and to put it on any offensive coordinator or an offensive coach to come in, any coach really to come in and say, okay, this thing's going to be fixed next year, is a bit unrealistic.
No, I
think
agree.
We're still 2 to 3 years. They still got to figure out the offensive line. They still got to figure out the defensive line. And they've got to do a culture change. That just doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with Ben Johnson, he's working with Jared Goff, right? I mean, with
Jared Goff, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Ross. I mean, they're weapons on that team.
Well, I mean, just from a quarterback standpoint, you got Joe Brady from the Bills, who's a candidate. Who's he working with? He's working with Josh Allen. You got Bobby Slowick, who's a candidate. Who's he working with? He's working with Stroud from Houston. Would he want to leave that? Arthur Smith, who's he working with for Pittsburgh? He's got Russell Wilson, who's his resurgence is pretty amazing, if you ask me. So
yeah,
would one of those guys?
He's back.
Yeah, well, I mean, would one of those guys want to leave their current situations to come fix this? Because you're right, there's a lot to fix.
If you had a choice between Ben Johnson or Bill Belichick, who would you take?
I'm taking Johnson.
Yeah. Is there anybody? Yeah. Who else would you? Where would you rank Bill Belichick on the list? I guess let's start there.
Well, I mean, it's a great question. He obviously has to be part of the conversation, right? I mean, his experience alone, his track record alone, he's got 6 Super Bowls as a head coach. He's got 2 more as a defensive coordinator. That obviously speaks for itself. Age is a factor. I mean, I don't know. Marv Levy coached the Bills till he was well into his 70s, so it's not like it'd be the first time.
Do you hire Bill Belichick? I mean, it seems to me like Belichick would be purely a culture change.
Yes.
Now, what if you had Bill Belichick and he's able to convince somebody like Joe Brady to come join his team? Or I don't know who his offensive coordinator would be. But if you could get Bill Belichick and a top OC to pair up with Caleb, is that a no-brainer?
Well, he always had Bill Belichick's guy was Josh McDaniels, right? He had McDaniels there for years, and McDaniels would go try and coach somebody's a head coach, and he'd get fired, and Belichick always brought him back. It was always Josh McDaniels on offense, and it was Matt Patricia for defense, and he would succeed. And that's why Josh McDaniels would continue to get rehired and then get fired, and then all that, all that.
At some point, you have to realize you're better as a second banana.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Yeah, but do you think Belichick could coexist with Ryan Poles as his GM? Or do you think Ryan Poles would be like, hey, man? Or would you have to essentially fire Ryan Poles?
I think there would have to be some sort of agreement. And this could be an opportunity. Let's say Poles says, all right, we're going to bring Belichick in. And we're going to give you your guys. Right, you tell me who you're looking for. We'll go make it happen as best we can. That might be a way for Poles to save his job for the next 3 to 5 years.
Now that I could get on board with because,
and he can learn from Belichick.
Because essentially Poles would be not working for, but like you said, learning under Belichick to improve his job.
Right.
Status. Yeah, I can see that.
Now, egos get in the room, and then it becomes, okay, well, you work for me, I work for you. And Bill Belichick strikes me as the kind of guy where he wants to be the big boss. He wants to control all the shots, all the football decisions. And
I mean, will
people see that to him?
His glowing personality, really speaks well, but I'm sure he's a very dominant, alpha in the room that's going to want a lot of say as to what goes on. So,
well, I think you have to be that successful, right?
Oh, 100%.
Everyone knows who's in charge, and this is the way we're going to run this organization. And there are no ways around it. It doesn't matter how much you get paid, what position you are. It is a do your job mentality. It is, everyone is held accountable.
Yeah.
To where they're at. And yeah, Belichick is probably like that. Hey, he's a surly dude. We're on to Cincinnati. I love the quote. I always say it.
Yes.
Right.
No, I love it. And the do your job was a nice Tom Thibodeau reference right there. I love that when he used to just be like, do your job.
Right. But, and I think I think he's a culture changer. Now, if he walks into an interview and says, hey, here's, what kind of staff do you see yourself bringing on? Now, let's say he can convince Brown to stay as part of that staff. Now you've got, somebody who can learn, somebody who can focus on where he's been, and Thomas Brown doing the offense coordinator. And then maybe he becomes the heir apparent based on how well Caleb Williams does.
Well, Belichick's deal was no matter who came to the team, they won. The only constant under Belichick was Tom Brady. Everything else was switched out. They never had the big name at running back. They had Randy Moss for one season?
And one glorious season.
yeah, and he was awesome. But
they had Tom Brady.
But they didn't win. But they didn't win the Super Bowl the year they had Randy Moss.
No, they got. I mean, yeah, they almost. They that was the year of the Giants, right? That was a perfect season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, but he had Tom Brady, and
he did.
You can argue what was more important to the Patriots, Brady, because Brady went and won Super Bowls after he left, and Belichick didn't. Actually, we're not very good.
Yeah, I mean, he won the one Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. You know, I've always thought, look, Tom Brady, great quarterback, no doubt about it. But did he do anything that was spectacular? He was like the ultimate game manager, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
I mean, did everything right, executed everything to perfection. He was, he was a perfectionist. But never had the strongest arm, obviously couldn't run very well. Just made smart decisions. And that's what won them 6 Super Bowls in my mind, is he knew how to get the best out of his guys when they needed it the most, no matter who was on the team. And there aren't many household names from those Patriots teams. If you
smart
think
player.
about it.
I mean, pick apart. I mean, you could argue football IQ between him and what's his name? Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah.
Both were, you could argue also Peyton Manning had better physical skills, but on a mental standpoint, I would put them both as equals.
Yeah,
knew how to carve up defenses.
Yes.
Knew their offenses and knew their schemes, and both struggled at times and both flourished at times. But that's what you want of a quarterback. I think this game manager moniker is sometimes, seen as a negative. I mean, wouldn't you kill for a game manager quarterback if you're win Super Bowls every time?
Hell yeah. Well, absolutely.
Yeah. Trent Dilfer. I mean, game manager quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. Dilfer's the ultimate example of a game manager. I mean, who's a great game manager when he's healthy is Brock Purdy. I think he is a fantastic game manager. When you get the right talent around him, he's good. Jalen Hurts, I think, is another one. I mean, when he's not game managing and is asked to do a whole heck of a lot, he kind of struggles sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
So there's guys out there that manage the game better than others, and other guys just kind of shoot from the hip, and they either succeed or they don't. I think, Mahomes is a shoot from the hip guy. Lamar Jackson is a shoot from the hip guy. Mahomes has been very successful doing that kind of thing, but ultimately, you have to.
How long can he be successful at that?
Yeah,
knowing physical gifts will go away at some point.
Exactly.
You can only throw somebody behind the back pass where, behind the back passes.
Yeah.
Before that, because of what the hell are you doing? Why would you throw that?
Well, they're 11-1, yet he's second in the league in interceptions this year. So it's like they're not so much winning anymore because of him. And I'm not saying they're winning in spite of him. They're still winning with him, but he's not the guy that is the reason they win.
Can we talk about the Chiefs and their last win? And I say that.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about that?
I mean, that is a team that has a horseshoe shoved way up that ass, because for as many creative ways as the Bears are finding to lose games, they are finding ways to win games.
Yeah.
I mean, I flipped that game on the Raiders expecting a blowout, or at least, a comfortable lead by Kansas City, and Raiders are there. All they have to do is kick a field goal and, they're going to win it. And then what do? Offensive lineman snaps it. The guy's not ready, and it's a fumble. Game over.
Yeah, on. Aiden O'Connell's looking to his left, and he takes the snap off his right shoulder, and then it's over. It's like, oh my God, are the stars aligned? Holy crap!
And everyone's blaming the offensive lineman, the center, who snapped it, who wasn't ready or whatever. But is that bad coaching when you're in that position? You could have gone to a field goal formation at that point. You could have.
I mean, you got a rookie center. Third rounder out of Oregon. I think he was the highest center draft right there. Powers Johnson, but obviously communication breakdown, and good football teams don't have that problem.
Right. They find ways to win those games. And
yes,
it's almost like there's a yin and the yang, and the negative yin is the Chicago Bears, and the positive yang are the Kansas City Chiefs this year.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But I mean, Thomas Brown, I mean, the guy he's a former player. He has been all over the place as far as coaching. I mean, coached at Georgia, coached at Chattanooga, coached at Marshall, coached at Wisconsin, coached at Miami, coached at South Carolina. All that before he even got to the NFL. And then he, with the Rams and then the Panthers and now the Bears. So he's been a lot of stuff. Sean McVay loves this guy. He's quoted as saying he is a leader of men. The guy commands respect of anybody in the room. I know this guy is being talked of as a very young Mike Tomlin. So, you get those kind of comparisons, you obviously have to pay attention.
Yeah, and he's definitely, it seems like every year he's gotten more responsibility, right? And looking at his coaching records, what strikes me though is he moves around a lot. He's only in a place a year, 2 years, and most of his jobs have only been 1-year deals. Like he started in Georgia 2011, then Chattanooga 2012, then Marshall 2013, then Wisconsin 2014, then Georgia 2015. Guy moves around a lot. If you are that good, is there a hidden personality trait here or something, like people don't like to work with him, don't want to work with him? Does it matter less maybe in the NFL because it's more results oriented versus personalities? I mean, he's only been with a couple of NFL teams between the Rams, the Panthers, and now the Bears. That's a lot of teams for 3 years. Yeah,
I mean, you have to, if you look at the progression of the jobs that he's had, are they always like step up, or are they
not
lateral
always.
Moves? That's the thing. I mean, he started at Georgia, like you said, but he was a strength and conditioning coach.
Yep. Then became a running back coach.
Yeah, then he became a running back coach for Chattanooga, then Marshall, then Wisconsin, a Big Ten team, and then he goes back to Georgia as the running backs coach in an SEC team. Mm-hmm. So I would argue that is a progression on the up, right? Because you kind of went to a better team and a better conference each time. Then he goes to Miami.
Offensive coordinator and running backs coach, because apparently that's like, he must have like a stipulation in his contract to always be a running backs coach.
Yeah, he went to Miami and became the offensive coordinator, but then and was there for 3 years. But then he goes back to South Carolina, only coaching running backs. So what happened there? Gets hired by the Rams to coach running backs, and then he becomes the assistant head coach while coaching the running backs. And then for some reason, after all these years,
we like what you've done with those running backs. Yeah, let's turn our tight ends into running backs.
Yeah, let's go to the tight ends and still be the assistant head coach. And then he becomes the offensive coordinator in Carolina. And then he comes to the Bears, interviews for the offensive coordinator job, doesn't get it because they gave it to Waldron, but gets hired as a passing game coordinator, takes over as the OC, and now he's the interim head coach. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know he interviewed for the OC position. Okay.
He did. And for some odd reason, did not get it. From what I understand, the Waldron hire was an Eberflus decision. It was not necessarily a Ryan Poles decision. And I also, from what I hear, Ryan Poles wanted to fire Eberflus after the Patriots game.
Yeah, I read that same article that he wanted to do that, which would have been the right decision to do.
Absolutely, it would have. And, the McCaskey family said no because, we don't do that midseason. But apparently they would have had, like we were talking about at the beginning, they would have had a full-on mutiny if they let Eberflus, stay with the team. He just lost them all. And,
there's always that saying, right? When somebody, pisses off basically the entire team and they leave him off the plane and let him find his way back home. I mean, that's really what they had to do with Flus.
I can only imagine the trip home from Detroit if they put him on a different plane or what. I mean, they had to remove him from the locker room. The players were that pissed off that they had to remove him from the locker room.
And then they trot him out in the morning of that Friday morning to do a press conference. Yeah, everything's fine. I'm getting prepared for next year. I'm like, come on, that's like organizational ineptitude right now.
Okay, so that brings me, great that you brought that up, because my new thing I want to start on this thing is called Dumbass of the Week. because there's always stupid crap that goes on in the
I
world
would say
of
this
sports.
is a who you crapping, but
Yes,
I'll go with
this is
dumbass of the
definitely
week.
who you crapping, bum of the week, all that kind of stuff. I'm calling it dumbass of the week. Dumbass of the week. And believe me, there were multiple candidates for this week. But dumbass of the week is a collective effort by the Bears organization for the exact reason that you said. Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Let's give a round of applause to everybody. Dumbass of the week, Chicago Bears organization.
Chicago Bears. You know, I mean, Poles wanted to fire Eberflus after the game, or the New England game. Ownership said no. Then they had him trotted out to do the press conference or the Zoom call, whatever the hell it is they do on Monday morning. And apparently the reason that happened is because the meeting between McCaskey, Kevin Warren, and Ryan Poles went too long. And they said, well, if we delay the press conference, they'll know something's up. No shit, something's up. We all knew it.
2 hours later, they fire him.
Yeah, and to allow poor Matt Eberflus, who I'm sure is a nice guy, nothing against the guy himself. He just, unfortunately, is not an NFL head coach. But he says, yeah, I'm preparing for San Francisco. Well, no, you're not. You're done.
Maybe in Madden.
We're moving on.
We're moving on. You're not.
Yeah, exactly. So Bears, dumbass of the week.
I can't argue
there
with
you
that.
Go.
I mean, that's just ineptitude, top down. I mean, is that Ryan Poles? Is that Kevin Warren? Who do we blame for that specifically?
I think it's Kevin Warren, personally. I mean, he's the head of the organization. He's probably, in the interviews that I've seen with him, all he does is talk about nothing. Talk about, you know, how he loves to see cranes in the air in Chicago because that signals development, and how he loves to see, you know, just people and the vibrance of Chicago and how great it is. And he just talks for just what seems like hours about that crap. And it's like, Kevin, spit it out, dude.
Not about football.
I'm sure. Yeah. So I'm sure they just wanted to go on and on and on, and nobody looked at the clock. That's probably what happened. That's my guess.
That's it. It seems to be a trend with Chicago Bears.
Yeah. It just speaks to their total ineptitude of their entire organization. That's where they're at. I hope they're able to move on. Brown's got the 5-game audition. They finish out the year. Keep developing Caleb as best you can, and then we'll see you this offseason and see what they do.
Yep. Well, the era is over. I think Flus becomes the only Chicago coach to never beat the Packers. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yep. So we're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah. The sad thing is, I saw a thing earlier today that when Lovie Smith was fired, he had a winning record, he had a Super Bowl appearance, and he made the playoffs 3 times.
Looks really bad to let him go.
Yeah. And ever since he's been gone, they've had John Fox, Mark Trestman, Matt Nagy, and Matt Eberflus, and none of them have a 500 record. And it's just complete disarray ever since they let Lovie go. Here's a question. I don't know what Lovie Smith is doing these days. Is he a guy you look at if he would be interested?
Yeah, I don't know what he's up to these days. I think there are too many other options out there, and I don't know what bringing him back does for you.
Okay.
As much as I think I always liked the guy. I think there would be a lot of people who are really looking for that offensive mind to pair with Caleb Williams. I don't know if Lovie Smith is that guy.
No, he's a defensive head coach for sure. Granted, he did the Bears a big favor in helping them get Caleb Williams, as we all know, when he was head coach at Houston. But yeah, I mean, it's another name. He's probably, you know, kind of like a Pete Carroll, you know, obviously not as successful as Belichick, but, you know, it's an older name that, you know, from the past that could be brought back. So I don't know.
I mean, he only lasted a year with the Texans, like was it last year or a year before that even. So I'm not even sure if he's coaching at the moment.
I don't know. The last I had heard, he was coaching. Was the head coach at University of Illinois and didn't have a whole lot of success there. So
again, do you get a personality like that and pair them up with a Ben Johnson or Thomas Brown or someone else?
I don't think Ben Johnson comes here as an assistant coach.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah. So I think you either get a defensive-minded head coach and Brown stays, or you hire an offensive-minded head coach. That's what I think. So
And then you run the
we'll
risk
see.
of Brown leaving and
You
starting
do.
over.
Yes, you do. So we'll
Them's the
see.
breaks.
Hopefully they do their due diligence and interview everybody under the sun and, make the right decision. So it's just, we talk about it week after week, right? This team is full of potential, but they literally crap the bed almost every time. It's like they're not prepared. They make a mistake. And most of it is coaching. So this move had to be done. No doubt about it. I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they had the balls to do it in the middle of the season. And, I know it's a holiday weekend, but not the first time in Chicago sports that a head coach has been fired around a holiday. I remember one Bulls coach, Scott Skiles, was fired by John Paxson on Christmas Day. So
Merry
it has
Christmas.
happened. It has happened before. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Don't let the door kick you on the way out.
But not for the Bears, though. It is a significant moment only because they've never done this before.
New territory for sure. But good for them.
Right.
Good for them.
What else in the NFL? I'm watching the Bills in San Francisco. It's a snowy, frozen tundra out there. Buffalo's up 14-3. Has had a long, I think it was a touchdown run. What else is going on in the NFL you want to talk about?
I mean, there were some tight games today. I mean, Carolina, took Tampa Bay to overtime. That's 2 weeks in a row that they've actually been competitive. So that was interesting to see. We saw Indianapolis come back and win on the road on a 2-point conversion converted by Anthony Richardson. So that was, he's a young QB who's kind of struggling to kind of make his way in the league. But it was good for him to.
Jets lost. Aaron Rodgers lost. Another good day.
Another Jets loss. That's always a good thing. We are happy about that. If you want to throw the applause on that one, we can.
Here we go.
Yes, sir. So yeah, a lot of tight games today.
Mm-hmm. We were texting earlier this week because we were having that conversation about running backs, and I wanted to bring this up because this is before Saquon Barkley had gone off for 200 yards in that Sunday night game.
Sure.
So right now, I'm looking at the advanced running back stats through this week. Saquon Barkley is averaging 20 attempts for 127 yards a game. Nuts, right? Which is probably what you want.
Better than 6 yards a carry. Yeah.
What struck me, though, was because we were talking about yards after contact and yards before contact. And
the yak.
So yak, yards after catch, same thing, similar stat for running backs, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I see this as an indicator of two things. One, your offensive line, and two, your play calling. He is averaging per game 84 yards before contact.
That's an amazing stat right there.
Of his 127 yards, 3/4 of it is coming before he's even touched. Second place is Derrick Henry at 59 yards.
Okay, so he's basically averaging 4 yards a carry without being touched.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we say DeAndre Swift was at? 4.1?
Let me look and see.
That was after last week. I don't know what he's at now. Last week.
So DeAndre Swift is averaging 33 yards before contact of his 60 yards.
Okay. So
and that's pretty similar to like Derrick Henry. So let's put stats here. So DeAndre Swift, 15 carries, 60 yards. 33 of those is before contact, 27 after contact.
Okay, so basically he's 2 yards a carry before and after contact for the most part.
Derrick Henry, 18 carries, 110 yards, 59 yards before contact, 51 yards after contact.
Okay.
About 50-50. The outlier here is Saquon Barkley, 20 carries, 127 yards. This is per game. 84 yards before contact, 42 after contact.
Well, I think you hit it on the head. It's definitely offensive line. It's definitely play calling or the scheme. Obviously, Barkley's a great talent. It'd be interesting to know.
He's having a great year, and he's an MVP candidate, which is rare 100%. For a non-quarterback to be in that discussion.
100%. It'd be interesting to know what those numbers were while he was a Giant. we can dig into that later. But yeah, the Eagles have arguably the best offensive line in football, or one of. But to get a dynamic player that can do everything out of the backfield behind the line like that, that's why they went out and signed him. And look what they're getting. The guy's worth every penny.
Yeah, dude went off last week. He's leading the league in rushing.
Yeah,
1,392 yards. He's got a little bit of an edge over Henry right now, 1,325 yards. And then there is a 500-yard difference for third place, Jahmyr Gibbs.
That's crazy. So have the Eagles had their off week yet? I don't know if they have or not.
I don't know.
Because I don't know I'm not sure off the top of my head what their record is, if they've got 5 games left or 6 games left. But if he's averaging 120 yards, he's going to be pushing for a 2,000-yard season. That's kind of what I'm getting at. The record I think is a little beyond that, but still, I mean, not many guys reach 2,000 yards in a season. I know they've added an extra game, so now it's a 17-game season, which kind of taints that just a little bit, but still, 2,000 yards in an NFL season is pretty amazing, considering how many teams use 2 running backs these days.
And they did have their bye. It was back in week 5. So
okay,
yeah, he's got plenty of opportunities. I mean, it helps he got a good team around him, good offensive line.
So he's got 5 games left to get roughly just under 700 yards.
Which, if he stays on average, he'll do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And really, so will Derrick Henry. He stays on average.
Yeah. I don't know if there's ever been 2 2,000-yard rushers in the same season. I highly doubt it. But no, both of those guys are having terrific seasons. Yeah. I still can't believe Tennessee let Derrick Henry go.
I mean, what would he have done for them? They really they didn't have identity beyond him, and I think they just didn't want to pay him the money.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, So you re-signed him. He's probably a $10 million a year running back because he's still kind of in his prime, and they needed a quarterback. I mean, they went out and got they traded away the wide receiver as well, right? So
yeah, they
went kind of almost like rebuild mode.
Yeah, kind of. But wouldn't you want a solid running back like that while you're trying to get Will Levis going? Or are you just going to rebuild the entire thing all at once? I think you rebuild all at once because the league doesn't value running backs. They haven't traditionally for like the last 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah.
So nobody wants to sink that money in it. Now, I think
we've talked about that.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm a running back guy by heart. Barry Sanders is still my guy. Walter Payton, my guy.
Yeah.
But today's NFL is predicated on passing.
Yeah.
And putting up points, and it's a passing league. Even the running backs are catching passes at clips they haven't seen before.
That's true. I mean, the money's in the receivers, the money's in the quarterbacks, and that's why they pay defensive backs to stop that, kind of thing. So, and they pay pass rushers because you're right. The NFL is a passing league.
And I think that's probably indicative of how hard it is to build an offensive line too, because you can score at any point from any position, right? But what's easier? Is it easier to score handing the ball off to running back standing 7 yards behind you and then trying to get yards before contact and then yards after contact? Or is it, let's just get a fast guy on the outside and throw a quick slant and let him run away with the ball? So I think it's a little bit of a numbers game. I think it's a little bit of the challenge that it comes to building a quality offensive line. And it's rare that you see a fully 100% built team, meaning strong offensive line, strong quarterback, strong running back, and at least one strong wide receiver. That's rare. Usually you're trying to hide some sort of deficiency somewhere.
Well, yeah, because for 2 reasons. 1, it's hard to find them all, and 2, it's hard to pay them all.
Yeah.
You're going to sacrifice your entire defense in order to do that, right? Your quarterback's making close to $50 million a year, and you got a receiver making probably in the high 20s. You got a good running back making 15, and you got an offensive tackle making God knows what, and then the rest of the line and all that shit. You gotta, it's gonna tie up a lot of your salary cap, so it's really difficult to build all that. If you're gonna build it, it's best to build it through the draft because for the first 4 years they're cheap.
Yeah, the fact that wide receivers make more money on average than a running back really is just so weird to me, considering the difference in the physicality typically of those two positions. How does a wide receiver get paid twice? What a top end wide receiver and a top end running back gets twice. You might say if your top end wide receiver gets, let's say, 10 targets a game, maybe 15 if it's like a Cooper Kupp possession style receiver, right? Meanwhile, you've got a running back who should be getting at least 20 carries, maybe 15 carries, and maybe another 5 to 7, from a passing game perspective, in addition to blocking all the plays where he's not even targeted, but he's still back there, doing stuff. It just seems like there's an inequity there as far as position and the amount of money is being paid for.
Well, it's basically based on touches, right? It's for running back, between carries and catches, like you said, roughly 25 touches a game, if not more. And like a receiver, rarely do you see a guy go past like 8. So yeah. I agree. I
mean, we're talking top end players, right? So there's probably a big difference between the two.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at 2023 average salaries by position, and a running back was, let's call it 1.8 million, and a wide receiver was 2.3 million. Is the average.
Right.
A tight end is, let's call it 2 million. A kicker makes more money on average than a running back, 2.2 million.
Well, first off, they say there's the argument that kickers aren't really football players, right? Kickers aren't athletes, all that stuff. But when you need them the most, they're the guy you gotta have. If you kickers, better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. And when the game's on the line, crowd buzzing, wind, all that stuff, he's the guy who's got to make the kick. So I can understand that. But running backs are a dime a dozen. It seems
they're one
like,
of the lowest.
Right? At least,
at least that's lowest on average paid.
At least that's how they're paid, and that's how they're treated. I think the average life of a running back in the NFL is like 3 years.
Yep. There's only 3 positions that are paid less on average than a running back. Can you name them?
I guess it'd be a punter.
Punter is third from the bottom.
I'm gonna say a guard.
Nope.
Center.
Nope.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
So then they're both on defense?
No.
Okay, a long snapper?
Long snapper is the least amount.
Yeah.
On average, they're making $1 million a year.
Okay.
A fullback is making 1.7.
Okay.
A punter, this is out of order. Sorry, 1.5. I'm not sure why that is. So a punter is actually second, and then fullback is 1.7, and running back is 1.7.
Okay.
How about the most? Who is paid the most?
Oh, the quarterback.
Nope. Not on average.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Quarterback on average in the year for the 2023 season was, let's call it 4.8 million.
Oh, because of
was the third highest.
Because the guy's on rookie deals. Okay. What
do we complain about the most in Chicago?
Offensive tackle. Offensive tackle. Yep.
Left tackle. The average salary for a left tackle in 2023 was let's call it 9 million a year. The average. And a right tackle that's a left tackle, and a right tackle is 5.1 million.
Okay, well, the left tackle obviously is going to be paid more because more often than not, he's covering the backside of the quarterback,
blind side.
Right?
Yep.
Right. So that just goes to show you, one, how important that position is, and two, how difficult a good one is to find.
Yep.
Right?
You find one and you lock them up.
Right. Which is why they rarely show up in free agency, which is why you got to draft them.
Mm-hmm. And then once you draft them, you've got to pay them and keep them.
You got to pay them. That's right. Which, again, needs to be why the Bears need to go into the draft looking at offensive line. No doubt about it.
So let's say you've got a stud left tackle, and that's your marquee player on offense. How long are you able to keep a stud left tackle if there's no one to protect meaning your team doesn't have a good quarterback, doesn't have a running back, and you really have no identity on offense. Let's say you draft that stud left tackle. Does it make sense for you to keep that person just in case?
Well, you've got him. Okay, so you have got him locked in for 4 years
Let's say it's a rookie
right out
deal.
of the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got him locked in for 4 years. Then you've got the 5th-year option.
Mhm.
So you draft that guy. That gives you 5 years to find whatever it is you're looking for.
Mhm. Let's say it's a quarterback, because that's what everyone's looking for.
So you've got 5 years to find it,
Mhm.
which is why they say football teams are built from the lines out.
Mhm.
Offensive line, defensive line. And then, they're built out from that. You get offensive line, and then you got your skill guys. So defensive line, then you get your linebackers and DBs and stuff. So
games are won in the trenches.
100%. 100%. That's one thing in football that I don't think will ever change. If you can't block and if you can't rush the passer, you're not going to be able to do shit in this league. No matter what is going on, no matter what team you're playing. Yeah, exactly.
I think you'll get the one-off exceptions, and maybe you win a game here or there, or maybe you win a championship one year. But I think consistently, the teams that have the strongest offensive defensive lines are typically the most consistently, competitive.
Yeah, I mean,
let's say you are in that position. You've got a left tackle.
Okay.
And let's say you're the Bears and you've whiffed on your quarterback for the last 3 straight. Do you keep paying that left tackle in the hopes that you get the quarterback position right?
Yes, absolutely.
To the detriment of signing other players.
You do everything it takes. You do everything that it takes to keep the quarterback protected. Absolutely, no matter who it is. Imagine, okay, here, you got Caleb Williams on a rookie deal right now. Imagine what he would be like if his offensive line was able to protect him. I mean, there's no telling.
That's what we've all been thinking.
I know, exactly. There's no way to prove that, he'd be throwing for 3,200 yards and he'd be at, 25 touchdowns right now. And all that. I mean, there's no way to know that, but I can comfortably say that he would be noticeably better with an offensive line that protected him. I think that's an easy one.
I think that's just almost like a no duh. That's right. You got better offensive line, more time to pass, coverage tends to break down. Most NFL defenses can cover for 2 to 4 seconds. And then it's, the longer the play runs on, someone's going to get open. Now, can you get it all to them is a different story, but coverage will break down at some point.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you can only block guys for so long, right? But, I mean, we've seen Caleb's escapability is top notch. So if he does get in a jam, more often than not, he's going to get out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Will he now he needs to do a better job making decisions as far as when to throw the ball away, when it's okay to take a sack, that kind of thing. But he's going to get out of there more often than not. But I don't care who it is. And I know a lot of people blame the downfall of Fields on the offensive line, and there's a lot of truth to that. Justin Fields, he wasn't put in a position to succeed. Yeah, that's true. I agree with that 100%. Would he have been better? Would he have been worth keeping with a top-notch offensive line? I don't know. Is he playing right now for Pittsburgh behind a top-notch offensive line? No, he's on the bench.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why Fields is now where he is as opposed to being the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. The Bears had an opportunity to draft Caleb. They took it. I think it was the right decision. I'll forever think it was the right decision. And, hopefully they can make the moves that they need to make to protect him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the right decision. But I think, studies have shown the left tackle position leads to higher completion rates, more passing yards, better protection, right? Is your quarterback is not getting injured. The blind side is for the quarterback, right? Either left or right tackle, depending on the quarterback handedness. But all that stuff is sort of invaluable. At some point, because these players rarely hit the market, I wonder how many teams have sacrificed other positions because of the importance of that one position.
Good question. That's a good question. But all I know is the Bears need to get one of the top 2 tackles in this draft if they can.
I mean, I don't
and
see it happen now. They're going to draft somewhere in the middle, right? I mean,
well, I mean, they're 4-8. I mean, who knows? I mean, they still have to play Detroit, Minnesota, and Green Bay one more time each.
let's say they
Will
lose
Thomas.
out.
Okay, so that would put them what at 4-13. That would put them in the top 5 in the draft, most likely.
I don't think so. Right now,
I'm saying when the season ends.
Okay.
I think right now they're like number 11.
They're number 9 or something like that.
9. Okay.
Yeah, that was before this week. They were number 9. Yeah, right now the Giants are on track to be number 1.
Okay. Well.
Yep.
But the Giants need a quarterback, so that's what they'll draft most likely.
Yeah, I haven't looked at.
I mean, I don't know who else. I don't know who else is ahead of them. Giants, Carolina.
Carolina's number 2, I think. Jacksonville's number 3. Then the Patriots, then the Browns, then the Panthers, then the Jets, Titans, and then the Bears.
Okay, well, out of those teams, the Jets will draft a quarterback. The Giants will draft a quarterback. Patriots have their quarterback. Jacksonville has their quarterback. Who else?
Do they? I mean, Trevor Lawrence took a hit today.
I know. He died on the field today, but he'll be back.
Yeah. By that same dirty player that hit Caleb, by the way. Make sure that I mentioned that.
Yeah. No, that dude. Yeah. And I'm sorry, what other teams did you say?
Raiders.
Raiders. They do need
Giants
a quarterback.
Need a quarterback.
Yep.
Jacksonville kind of 50-50. Patriots don't. The Browns do.
The Browns do.
Panthers. I don't know. Do you think they get Bryce Young another year, considering he's played really pretty decently the last few weeks now? They've been competitive.
They have, and they need a lot of other things. So I think they should.
Mm-hmm. And you got the Jets, who
Jets will draft a quarterback.
Tennessee, they've got Will.
They have Levis.
Is he somebody that you build around?
Well, I think these last 5 games, obviously they'll have some decisions to make. So,
yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is okay. So, I think the Bears move up on that list because I don't think there's any way that all of those teams lose out. Obviously that draft order is not going to stay the same.
Yeah.
But I think there's a chance. I'm not saying a good chance. I mean, you never know with the coaching change that if they will improve, but there is a chance that they do lose out and go 4-13.
I mean, they've got the hardest schedule.
They do. Right, like I said, they got to play the rest of the division again, and they got to play San Francisco, and they have to play Seattle. So,
well, I'm looking at a mock draft from CBS Sports, and the number 1 pick by the Chicago Bears is defensive lineman Kenneth Grant from Michigan at pick number 12.
They'll pick higher than that.
Looks like the highest offensive lineman taken in this mock draft.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Is, let's see, Will Campbell, offensive tackle from going to Cleveland from LSU.
At what pick?
Pick number 8.
8. Okay. Mm-hmm. Actually, I could see the Bears maybe being a little higher than that. That's probably where they'll be in the 6, 7, 8 range. If he's projected to go number 8, say if the Bears are drafted 6, is he a reach? Or excuse me, is that a overpay or overdraft?
I mean, when it's a position you need sorely and you think it's the guy, are you willing to reach for the guy that you think is going to be the solid starter for you?
Are you drafted for position, or are you drafting the best player available?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that, I mean, I don't know, man. I think we got to look at like, what's the gap, right? So I'm looking at the same draft order, and the next offensive lineman off the board is pick number 16, Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas. So there's an 8-pick spread between 2 offensive linemen.
So basically, that tells me this isn't an offensive line heavy draft, right?
Right.
You got, what is it? I mean, you got Sanders coming out of Colorado. You got Travis Hunter coming out of Colorado. Those are just the 2 names off the top of my head. The quarterback for Miami, I think it is. Was it Cam Ward? I think is his name.
The top 3 ranked right now are Kelvin Banks, Wyatt Millam, and Will Campbell.
Those are the top 3.
Those are the top 3 that are right now, at least according to NFLDraftBuzz.com.
Okay.
No idea. Just Google it. Could
I
be
have
fake news for
no
all I know.
idea on any of those dudes. So,
But I think
yeah.
this goes into calculus, right? Is if it is a offensive line poor draft, I think you have to reach to get the ones because the quality drop off is there. And I don't think you can afford, unless there is a stud, absolute stud at a position you need somewhere else. I think you do have to reach a little bit.
Well, yeah, because if it's not a heavy draft for offensive linemen, but this is what you need, this is what your team needs, more than anything else, in my opinion. Then yeah,
you could play the trade back game if you think that you could trade with somebody who is not.
Yeah, you mess around with that if you want to, but they have to come out of this draft with at least, in my mind, they have to come out of here with at least 2 starters.
That's what I was thinking too. Two projected NFL starters right away.
Yeah.
And shore up that line.
Yeah, because I mean, I think you can improve over Braxton Jones. Tevin Jenkins, God, the guy, when he's healthy, he's awesome. And I know he had the shitty penalty at the end of the game the other day, but
I'm going to start with that guy.
I know, but when he's healthy, he's great. Obviously, the other side of the line, you got Darnell Wright, the first round pick from 2 years ago, who I think is still going to be good. They need to figure out right guard. They let Nate Davis go. Aaron Pryor's not it. And I think they could still upgrade at center. I wouldn't spend a high draft pick on a center or a guard, obviously, but I definitely, if you can grab a left tackle that's going to be your dude for the next 10 years, then get him, grab him. Absolutely. So
let's just get the biggest players we can.
Yeah.
Let's take them to Old Country Buffet or Golden Corral or whatever, and just plop them down and say, eat. You're not going anywhere until we have 2,000 pounds of offensive line sitting in front of us.
Here's the other decision they have. What do they do about Keenan Allen at the end of the year?
I think he's done.
You think so?
Yeah. I think he's already talked about also maybe going back to San Diego. I mean, I don't think he's the player that he used to be. I think he's still getting by on guile and just being a good receiver and routes. But I don't think they need to bring him back, especially with the way Odunze has played.
I've read that his preference is to stay, but his second preference is to go back to California. If you could, I wouldn't
complain if he was still there, but I don't. He's a third down wide receiver at best right now.
Well, right, but that's what you need him for. I mean, he's a possession guy, right? He's not going to go run, 40 yards down the field.
I love the guy. I think he's I don't know if he's Hall of Fame or not, but a really good wide receiver.
I think I'm not saying first ballot or anything, but I think down the road, the guy's got over 11,000 career yards. I think it is. I think for a while, what was the stat? He held a record for average catches per game or something like that.
Yeah. I remember, I think I had him on one of my fantasy teams.
Yeah.
he was a stud for that. I mean, he's a great player.
Yeah.
I just don't know if his body is still there or not.
I think this is his 12th or 13th season or something like that. It would have to be on a cheap, team-friendly deal. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see him come back. I didn't think so a couple of weeks ago, but now the last couple of weeks he's been very productive.
Yeah.
Still has a couple of drops here or there, but I guess.
And maybe it was early injuries or something, right? I think he wasn't healthy coming out of training camp, but.
No, I mean, he had the foot injury that was really bad and missed a couple of games early, but the guy's pretty dependable. He had the 2 touchdowns in the last game. So what happened to Tyler Scott?
Who?
Remember they drafted him out of Cincinnati in the 3rd or 4th round, and he was supposed to be this speedster that was going to stretch the field. And the guy, I don't even know what he does or if he dresses for games or what, but he'd obviously be next man up if they didn't bring him back, and you have no idea what the guy's capable of.
I don't even know if has he played in a game?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they'd rather put their kick returner DeAndre Carter out there than Tyler Scott for whatever reason. So, he's on the team. At least I think he's still on the team, but I don't know whatever happened to that guy. But the reason I ask is he's on a rookie deal. Do you try and figure out if this guy could be part of your future?
Well, he's currently marked as inactive, so maybe
Okay,
that tells
well,
you it.
maybe he's hurt. I don't know.
I don't know.
But I mean, obviously DJ, you love DJ Moore. I love everything I've seen from Adunze. I think the guy's going to be the real deal.
Mhm.
So going forward, you have at least 2 stud receivers, and most teams, barely have 1. So
And you still got Komet.
yeah, Komet, top 10 tight end in the league, in my opinion.
Well, if this tells you any indication of what's happened to Tyler Scott, I'm looking at his page on ESPN, and the last news article about him was a year ago when he got stuck with a $20,000 restaurant bill when he was a rookie. So
Tyler.
Bears pranked rookie wide receiver Tyler Scott with a $20,000 restaurant bill. So,
poor guy.
So no news since then. He may not have financially recovered from that.
Well, maybe not. Well, maybe no news is good news, but maybe no news is bad news. So
Yep. He's probably a special teamer at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yep. All right, an hour 10. What else you got?
Wow. Yeah, we kind of
we did an hour 10 on almost the entire Bears. I mean,
I know. Well, obviously there was a lot to talk about. Yeah. I mean, here we'll put off the baseball stuff till next week.
Baseball still happening? I thought it was over.
Yeah, I know. Off season's happening. Obviously, Cubs, have stuff going on. Sox have stuff going on. The Dodgers have signed 2 more guys to major deals with deferred money that, everybody thinks is unfair, which is crap. Any team in the league could do it. So, whatever, but we'll touch on that for next week. But for the record, for any of you baseball fans out there, the big contract, Blake Snell, 5 years, $180 million. As a Dodger fan, I freaking hate it. I hate that deal.
5 years, $180 million.
5 years, $182 million, and next week I will tell you why I hate it. Is absolutely
Is
awful.
this a deferred contract again?
Part of it is, yes.
Okay.
Deferred contract, signing bonus for a guy that is not worth it, in my opinion. But next week I'll tell you why. So, okay, let's get to the music.
Okay. All right. I'll talk to you next week then. Oh, music.
Oh, music. Talk music.
Yeah.
Music.
I'm like, get to the music. You mean like the outro? Like, what are you doing here?
No. Let's get
to
the music.
Hit me.
Knife Party.
Yes.
/ Pendulum.
Yeah, baby. Bring it.
Okay. Spent some time with Knife Party today, actually.
Okay.
Very different from a lot of stuff that I've ever heard before.
Really? Okay.
I had a hard time coming up with some comps.
Okay.
But I did. So hang with me on this.
All right.
Okay. 4 names come to mind with Knife Party / Pendulum. Prodigy.
Okay. Yep.
Famous DJ David Guetta.
I can see some of that. Yeah.
If you remember the group, I think early 2000s, a little too Unlimited.
Okay.
And this one is a stretch, but just for the beat alone, a little bit of Ministry.
Oh, okay. I can see that because I think
if you mesh all that together, I think you have this. I think you have Knife Party. Hence the party.
Okay. I wonder how much of that is Rob Swire, who is one of the, like, I guess he'd be considered the lead person for Knife Party and for Pendulum, which is kind of like they're the same band sort of thing. But he's also a music producer. So I wonder if he's produced songs that would fit into that, for example. So let me look and see production credits. DJ Fresh, Rihanna, Tayo Cruz, Rihanna, Tinny Tempa. I'm not sure who that is.
Okay, so
he's definitely done some things.
A lot of pop, a lot of some dance. Yeah.
Dead Mouse, Ghosts and Stuff, which is the one I thought. I'm surprised you didn't mention Dead Mouse or Skrillex because I feel like those are sort of very similar. But maybe
I'll admit, Dead Mouse is not something I'm familiar with. Skrillex, I've listened to a little bit. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Prodigy for sure. I think definitely fits into that. Did you like it? That's the $1 million question. What did you listen to? Do you remember any of the names of the songs?
I don't. And you know what? I need to do a better job of writing down exactly what I listen to when I listen to these groups that you suggest for me, which I will do in the future. But I will spend some more time with it. But yeah, I did.
Okay.
Definitely upbeat, definitely noisy.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got to be in the mood for it, I would think. But yeah, I found it enjoyable.
Okay. Good. What else did I suggest? Knife Party,
Okay,
Pendulum.
Tom Morello, Atlas
Tom Morello.
Underground.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. Right.
Really thought it was awesome. And the funny thing is, I'm listening to the cover of Highway to Hell, which I believe is track 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, God, that sounds like Bruce Springsteen. And son of a gun, I looked it up.
It's
freaking Bruce Springsteen. I was like, holy crap. And little did I know that Eddie Vedder also did some stuff on that song as well.
So you remember how I mentioned Run the Jewels a couple weeks ago? So if you like Run the Jewels and you like Tom Morello, then you should listen to Rabbit's Revenge off of the Atlas Underground. So Atlas Underground is like, I think it's like 3 different albums. It's like there's different versions of it. I think it's the original one, but it's the Atlas Underground. It's track number 2 on the album, and it's Rabbit's Revenge with Tom Morello, Bass Nectar, another great EDM, Big Boy, and Killer Mike. Big Boy from Outkast,
Big Boy
and
from
Killer
Outkast,
Mike from Run the Jewels. I think it's a fantastic song.
That's quite the collaboration right there.
Yes, exactly.
There's some names right there. That's pretty solid. But yeah, I like that one. I also liked War Inside with Chris Stapleton, and I'm not a Chris Stapleton guy. I know I'm in the big minority on that one. But I thought that song was really cool. Yeah, it's just he's not my style.
He's got a good voice, but I don't care for the music. I'm just not a
exactly. Yeah. It's not my thing. But I will spend some more time with that one too. Obviously, I compared it. Obviously, Audio Slave is all over that stuff because it's the same sound, but Audio Slave with a little more edge.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If that makes sense.
Well, that, and I think Tom Morello has always been more of an activist, and he's tends to weave more political themes into his song. So Rabbit's Revenge is definitely one of those.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he does kind of push it a little bit, test the limits, all that kind of thing. He does, give things an edge. Never afraid to say what is on his mind and all that stuff. You ever listen to him speak or any of that? He's out there.
Yep, well, that's good.
And as we touched on, big Cup fan.
Yeah. Yes. What else did I suggest?
The last one. Yeah. The last one, Justice.
Yeah, baby.
Yes. Definitely, obviously Daft Punk.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I would think Justin and Daft Punk are sort of the 2 contemporaries, French DJ type that culture. Yeah.
So I searched these guys on YouTube.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I gotta pick something out and give it a whirl. I ran across a concert in Paris 4 years ago. It's called Iris, a Space Opera. I listened to that thing from start to finish.
And what'd you think?
I gotta tell you, rarely do I listen to something and feel just complete relaxation. And when I gave that a run, I was relaxed. I mean, you could kind of feel yourself moving a little bit. Had an easy groove, nice beat. Totally feel good. That's feel good stuff. And sometimes I'll admit I need that. That's something I need. So I will put Justice in my rotation because that, I thought that was really good.
And they've been around for a while, so there's a lot of catalog to kind of discover.
I noticed that.
If you like the live stuff, then listen to it's WWW. It's like a Woman Worldwide or something like that. I can't remember. Woman Worldwide. That's what it is.
Okay. And
it's essentially a live album of concerts. I don't know if it's more than if it's one take or one concert, but it's like this show they did where they toured the world, and it's the album for that tour. And there'll be a lot of hits and a lot of stuff, and I think it's up there with like Daft Punk Alive.
Yeah.
As like a live album. But the one thing that always strikes me about Justice is how inanimate they are on stage.
Yeah, right.
They're just kind of standing there with their equipment, and they're not like, DJs running along and like trying to get the crowd into it. They're just sitting there doing their thing. They're grooving, and that's fine, but just the 2 of them just standing there.
No, it's like, honest to God, it's like going to a bar with 20,000 people.
Yeah.
It's like going to a rave, and just listen to music and just basically chilling. I mean, that's something you put on to kind of get away from everything else you got going on.
It's good driving music too.
Yeah, for sure. Just kind of zone out and throw that in there and let it go.
Well, then check out
So-
Woman Worldwide. It's an album they put out, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
And it's a live version, so they have a lot of the hits and spins and stuff like that off of some of their stuff.
Solid. So yeah, 3 for 3 this week, my friend.
All right.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anything I can recommend this week, because I've gotten more into like singles.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard to say, okay, listen to this one song without really knowing the rest of the band and things like that.
I did a kind of a deep dive into one of my all-time favorites. We talked about him last week. I'm a diehard Van Halen fan. Always have been, always will be. They're always when all else fails, they're my go-to. Deep dive into the Fair Warning album. Unchained. It just kind of goes from there. Great song.
Unchained. I think that might be my favorite.
Yeah.
Or maybe Eruption, which I think is a instrumental, but
yeah, Eruption off of their first album is also good. But I mean, Fair Warning, you got Unchained, you got Mean Streets, you got Dirty Movies. Just a fantastic album, start to finish. Probably my favorite by them. Just Eddie's guitar is just so freaking good, man. Yeah. There's just nothing like it. And then I revisited once again on YouTube. I love YouTube, by the way.
YouTube's great.
One of the greatest things that's ever come along. Probably second to the internet as a whole, to be honest.
It is my most used streaming service that I actually pay for. I use it so much that I'm willing to pay for it.
I have done so much. YouTube has helped me fix my car. I have fixed appliances. I have installed shit that I never thought I could.
Fix my water heater with it. I mean, yeah.
Yes, YouTube has done everything for
it's
me.
where you can get the Sweet Bears and music talk every week.
Yeah. I mean, I can watch the dudes on the score through YouTube and listen to them bitch about the Bears and all that kind of stuff. But YouTube is just awesome. But I revisited a Gary Cherone Van Halen concert, the one that you and I saw when they were in Australia, and where he hits pretty much every album of theirs in their catalog. And again, awesome. So I would, any of you rock and roll fans, dive into Gary Cherone Van Halen. I know it was tough in the studio, but it was damn good on the road, man.
But I think there's something to be said about live music. It's just, it hits different, I think.
Oh.
And I mean, the classic example for me is when we went and saw, I don't remember who it was, but remember Corrosion of Conformity opened for them? Yeah. And they were like killer openings.
Yes.
We gotta get. I went and bought the album. And I brought the album home. I was like, this sucks. But live, I remember when we went, amazing.
Yeah, I remember when you went and saw. It was the Q101 Jamboree. I think it was when we saw, and I remember this was our friend Helen's favorite band at the time, Stabbing Westward.
Stabbing Westward still rocks, by the way.
Yeah, and I remember seeing them live, and I was blown away. I'm like, Helen likes this, and she's like, it's the best. And yeah, Stabbing Westward was a good find. But yeah, you're right. Live music is special. It's just fun to be around. It's a good time.
Stabbing Westward still putting stuff out, remixes of things, apparently, as I look at my Spotify lists. A lot of remixes, but yeah, it looks like their last full album was in 2022. It's only just a couple years ago.
Okay.
But wow. Yeah, I'm trying to think, what was the one album? Wither, Blister, Burn, and Peel, which was fantastic.
Yes, it was.
And then Darkest Days, I think, is my favorite one that they did. I could listen to that album on over and over and over again. So that was 1998.
I'm going to write that down the album, and give that a revisit.
Darkest Days. It strikes me as like a Doom soundtrack. I don't know if you've played any of the recent Doom games. They've really got into like this whole like industrial rock sort of soundtracks, and they're really, really good. But it strikes me as like a precursor to that. It was like, this is music you listen to while you're just killing demons.
Well, we did plenty of that back in the day.
Right,
I remember that
demon slaying music.
Yeah, demons and army guys with
Command and Conquer.
Was that? Yes, I was gonna say what the hell is that game's called? But Command and Conquer.
Shout out to Jason Sorak and Watch out for those pillboxes inside of your camp.
Yeah,
Just
watch
straight up murdering your guys as they come out the tent.
watch out for Tanya, because boy is she a bitch. Oh
Well, good. I'm
man,
glad
good.
you liked the choices there.
Yeah, I really did. And yeah, it's good to dive into stuff that you don't really dive into on a regular basis. So,
And I did listen to Linkin Park, the new album. I thought it was
what'd you think?
Okay.
Okay,
I can't remember the girl's voice, the new singer.
Emily Armstrong.
It's really hit or miss for me. It's
Yeah.
very scratchy on others, and it almost sounds like she's trying too hard. And others, it's like, oh yeah, this is brilliant.
I felt the same thing.
It's really inconsistent for me, but you know, she's very talented. It just strikes me like the dissonance of it sometimes.
I think it's difficult to. You want to keep the Chester Bennington sound, but you want to respect Chester Bennington, that you're not trying to duplicate it. But obviously that's their style of music. And in order for her to perform live, they had to find somebody with that kind of voice, right? Or else their entire catalog would sound different for the most part.
Maybe, but I think it's also an opportunity to say, okay, that era of Linkin Park.
Yeah.
Do we want to try and
turn the page?
Yeah. Because I think you still have Shimoda there, who is really the driver behind a lot of the music. He's the lyricist and does a lot of it. I think he could still capture some of that. I don't think I think it's a lose-lose proposition no matter which way you go with it.
Yeah, I mean, you got diehard, obviously, Linkin Park fans that, you know, really worship Chester Bennington, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and so do you let the band die because a band member is no longer available for whatever reason, right? Obviously, in the case of Chester Bennington, committed suicide, but there's lots of reasons why a band member might leave. And if they're that integral to the band, you know, is it time to reboot? And do you just appreciate it for, you know, the few years that you had together? Like the Beatles were that way. They were only together for a couple of years, right? But
here, I got two examples of that. You got AC/DC, who had Bon Scott, he died, and then they had Brian Johnson, two totally different sounding lead singers, right? Everything else in the band stayed the same. In fact, if I recall, this is crazy. They put out 2 records in the same year. One was with Bon Scott and one was with Brian Johnson. So they cranked that music out pretty quickly. God damn, is it snowing like crazy in Buffalo right now?
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's coming down.
Yeah, it is bad.
And the Niners are having trouble with their footing, but
yeah, they sure are. But
anyway,
and the
score 21-3. They also have trouble with that.
The other thing, but diehard AC/DC fans love both, to my knowledge. Now, the other example is Van Halen. David Lee Roth, he left the band. Sammy Hagar entered the band. In my opinion, two completely different eras of their music. Sammy came along, they kind of slowed down a little bit, a lot more keyboards, a lot more ballads, a lot more, I would say, modern musicianship, if you will, where when they had Dave, it was more about the live show. It was the raw guitar. It was just something that at that point, it was something that people had never heard before. And I think with Sammy, they became a little more commercialized, if you will. And if you were to follow online, I'll admit Facebook, I am in a Van Halen group just to kind of listen and stuff. Those people, the David Lee Roth fans and the Sammy Hagar fans, they absolutely hate each other, which is ridiculous to me because I think they're both good. And I think it's okay to prefer one over the other without hating the other. But it's almost like Cubs White Sox. It's like you can't like them both for whatever reason. And I think it's ridiculous. But yeah,
well, I mean, they're two different styles, right? One's a performer and the other one's a musician.
Right. I mean, Dave was a performer. Sammy Hagar, big time guitar player. Looks like the Niners turned it over. Yeah,
as right about to cross the goal line for a touchdown, and coughs it up. So that's your 49ers.
Yeah. So just bands, like you said, they evolve over time. They should be allowed to evolve over time, I think. Again, it's in the music. I think as a fan of a group, you appreciate it for what it was, and enjoy the time that you had with it. And unfortunately, all good things come to an end at some point. So
that's like Metallica for me. I think I when Newstead left the band was kind of the start of the downhill for them. Like, I just didn't enjoy as much of the new stuff. Now, I don't think he ever particularly had much say in the band. I think it's always been Lars and James, Hetfield. Maybe a couple of Kirk Hammett things in there every once in a while, but for whatever reason, when he left, it was kind of like, okay, what's next? And the next chapter just, for me, wasn't as appealing as
which is interesting because the guy they brought in, Rob, very talented musician.
Oh yeah,
and successful musician. I mean, he played with Ozzy Osbourne for a long time. Was with Suicidal Tendencies for a long time. So it's not like they just brought in a guy off the street. I mean,
but it's very clear whose band that is. That is Lars.
Oh, no doubt.
Hetfield and James Hetfield.
Yeah, Hetfield and Lars Ulrich. So
yeah. Now, if one of those two guys leaves, I think that's probably the end of it.
Most likely, yeah.
But
most likely, and it should be. If one of those guys leaves, I mean, it's it wouldn't be anywhere close to what it was. But
I mean, they've been rocking since 1981, so, and they're still putting out stuff, which good for them. I just haven't really found anything that's hit me since Reload would probably be the last.
I hear you, but I'll tell you what, man, go see them live.
I'll go see them live for sure, anytime.
Yeah,
because I know I'll
go
get
cut
some
the grass
of that as
and
well.
pull up Lollapalooza 2022, and they play all the hits, man. I'm telling you.
Yep. All right, what else?
That's really all I got.
It's a record for us. Hour and a half.
I mean, it's Bears. I mean, the Bulls are bad. The Hawks are bad. Although Bedard scored a goal today finally, so that was nice to see. He actually, I think, has 2 goals in his last 2 games. But I mean, it's Bears. That's what this town follows. It's what this town kind of comes together for. We argue about Cub socks all summer, and then everybody comes back to being a Bears fan and
argue about how bad the Bears are. The one thing we can find consensus on.
The one thing we can all agree on is how bad they are. And we just get our hopes up, and every stinking year they just shit the bed, as DJ Moore said. And again, now we're playing for a draft pick. So
yeah, and hopefully continued development by Caleb Williams. So that's good.
I just hope that they get it together. Now, granted, they've got 4 more years, but they get it together to the point where Caleb wants to stay when he becomes a free agent.
Yes, because they're going to have to break the bank to keep him if he continues with his development. Right? There's still the possibility that he flames out.
Oh, of course,
but
he's trending up.
I mean, things are going great now. If the Bears have not protected him, and he can still continues to succeed despite maybe being the most sacked quarterback in the NFL, or not having consistent coaching, or even I mean, I would want to be in at least the playoffs multiple years at that point. Do you stick around and play for a loser team if there is an opportunity to go and play for a winner somewhere?
Well, I mean, the guy has the opportunity to own Chicago. I mean, if you are a successful quarterback for the Chicago Bears, I mean, the world is your oyster when it comes to city of Chicago. I mean, if he can do that, take them to the playoffs, take them to the Super Bowl. I mean, dare I say it, win a Super Bowl down the road. I mean, the guy will never buy another meal in this town again, ever, and live the good life for the rest of his life. And I mean, Jesus, they already retired the guy's jersey in USC just this past weekend.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is crazy to me, but they did.
And he's about to pass Sid Luckman for most passing yards in Sid Luckman's best year. He's got to average 278 yards a game to hit 4,000 for the year,
which would set a Bears record. What
Kramer's at 3,800, I think, something like that.
He has a shot at that. I think he'll pass Cutler's best year for sure.
I don't remember what Cutler's was. Right now he's on pace for 3,700.
Okay, I think Cutler's was like 34. So
he's got to step up quite a bit.
Yeah, again, they have the extra game, so I think you got to keep that in consideration. But all signs for me for Caleb point up.
Yeah, let's keep it going.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, it's getting late here. Some of us have to work in the morning. Actually, no, I got it. Where am I going? I'm going to Milwaukee tomorrow. That's where I'm going. I'm like, where am I going?
How long you gonna be there?
Overnight, like Friday. No, which day? Monday night, and then Tuesday night, and then fly back on Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
So if you feel like driving out to Milwaukee, I'd be happy to take you to
a
dinner
quick
or something
hit
like that. Yeah, a quick hit.
Only
a couple hours away.
On.
I'm up in like Wauwatosa or something like that. It's like a northwest suburb. So
Wawa.
Wauwatosa. Yep. So at the very minimum, maybe I'll get some Portillo's delivered or something to the hotel.
Hey, there you go.
Yep.
Very nice.
So yeah, there's that, and then home, and then off to Dallas next week. So
very good. Well, I am back around the suburbs of Chicago, off vacation. So you guys need food? Hit me up.
That's right. All right, my man. I will.
If you need a supplier,
talk to
hit
you.
me up.
A supplier, yeah. Well, send as much stuff you need down to Asheville. We still use it for all the to-go stuff.
We'll do. Like and subscribe, baby.
Like and subscribe. Exactly.
That's right.
All right. I'll talk to you next week, if not sooner.
All right, man. Sounds good. Take care.
See ya.
See ya.